Welcome to the Advanced Freelancing Podcast. Every week, you'll hear strategies for building your online service-based business your way. And now, here's your host, veteran freelancer, author, and TEDx speaker, Laura Briggs.
Hello, listeners. I hope you are doing well. I am thrilled for this podcast because watching the metrics, I can see that some of my most popular episodes are around how to use LinkedIn to grow your freelance business. And it's really one of my areas of passion. My journey on LinkedIn was kind of a slow one to start with. And it's really become the most powerful social media platform for me today on both sides of my business. I have over 10,500 followers there and new connections every single week. It's also the place where a Wall Street journalist found me and contacted me to quote me in an article, and where I get speaking engagement requests and client referrals all the time. So today I want to talk specifically about how to get more connections on LinkedIn and some of the strategies that I use to make sure that it is a win for me, but also so that other people who I'm connecting with understand why I'm reaching out to them and see the value in connecting with me. So first, you want to start by having a really good profile. And there are previous episodes of my podcast where I dive into this concept of how to up-level your LinkedIn profile. If that is of interest to you, you want to go back to episode 149. It's called LinkedIn Profile Basics for Freelancers. And that's really what you want to have as the cornerstone of your LinkedIn strategy, because it's my first tip for building new connections on LinkedIn is to have a really great profile. So if you've never created a LinkedIn profile, or it's essentially a digital version of your resume, or it's been years since you tweaked your LinkedIn profile, there are lots of actionable tips in that episode, and I encourage you to go back and take a listen to it because it will really help you. So you want to start by having a really good profile, because if people look at your profile before deciding whether or not to connect with you, they're going to make that snap judgment in a couple of seconds based on what is the value that you provide in your profile. So some people have really obvious bad tells in their profile that make me unlikely to accept a connection request because I can tell they are immediately going to pitch me. So financial advisors, sorry to all the financial advisors out there, but they are notorious for doing this. They will put something in their LinkedIn tagline that says like, I help people preserve their money, or helping solopreneurs make more money and protect their wealth, or something like that. So whenever they send me a connection request, usually it either comes with no note at all, or it comes with a note that is really specific that they're going to pitch me. They'll say something like, hey, want to get on the call for 15 minutes and, talk to me about your financial strategy. So you're immediately pitching me with no value, right? And then that's backed up by a profile that shows that you're really just here trying to do cold sales on LinkedIn. So as freelancers, we don't want to come across like that, even if you are going to use LinkedIn as part of your cold pitching strategy. So have a really good profile that talks about what you do and includes some really good information about your business and you in and outside of that business. So what organizations do you volunteer for? Where did you go to school? What certifications do you have? Because you never know what it is on your profile that may be of interest to a potential connection. People are very unlikely to accept connection requests from those they don't know and have never met unless there's a really good reason for them to do that. So that's tip number 2, provide actual value with that profile and with the content that you post or the way that you interact with other people's materials on LinkedIn. If you're not active on LinkedIn at all, LinkedIn's algorithm will not push you to the top of search engine results. It also makes it feel really questionable as to why you're reaching out to somebody to connect with them if you have never met. So what is the value that you provide? The value you provide might be, hey, I want to connect with you because I see you're a thought leader on LinkedIn and you're posting content here and I want to follow you and see what you have to say. A person is a lot more likely to accept a connection request that has some benefit for them in that way. It might be that you post regularly about topics within your industry or your niche. That could be potential value for them. They would see that on your profile. And you don't necessarily need to say that when you connect with them, but there needs to be a benefit of them connecting with you. So today, why would a freelancer follow me on LinkedIn? It's because I post lots of material on LinkedIn that's helpful for them growing their business. And it's sort of the behind the scenes of the day to day of running an actual freelance business. So by following me and connecting with me on LinkedIn, they're going to get that inside pipeline of what I'm doing in my business, what's working and what isn't. There's value in them following me for that reason. So provide some sort of actual value. And having a fully filled out profile helps to show that you're going to be active on this profile. Now, I recommend adding at least 10 people every single week. I do this by thinking about different groups of people that I'd like to connect with. So I might break it down to I want to connect with other Virginia Tech alums. I want to connect with people who live in my local region. I want to connect with chief technical officers at startups in the Chicago area. And I will do a search and then connect with those people from there. So recently I was looking to interview some people who were going through a particular graduate program. And it's the first thing I typed in was the name of the institution and the name of the degree. I found 5 people and sent them all a cold message asking them if they would participate. So think about your searching in that way. How can you break it down into smaller groups so that you can say, hey, my target this week is to, connect with maybe it's a list of 10 new local businesses that have opened in your area. My goal is to connect with the 10 owners of those businesses this week. And maybe next week it's a different group, or it's the HR departments at companies in your area that have more than 200 employees. But adding at least 10 people every week also shows LinkedIn that you're active. It shows you're not gaming the system. So when people start trying to add over 50 connections in a day, LinkedIn tends to think that that's spam. So it's much more consistent and realistic to be doing at least 10 connections every week. You can definitely do more than that, but I pick 10 because it's enough to be growing your network, but it's also not so overwhelming that it's impossible to keep up with that. Now, be authentic in your outreach. If you are going to pitch someone, give them a clue that that might be what's coming, even if you don't say it outright in the immediate connection message. Be authentic with why you want to connect with them. So when I first moved to the Twin Cities, I had a several week campaign of adding people who were digital marketing executives. The message that I used was, hey, I'm looking to connect with other digital marketing leaders in the Twin Cities area. It was very authentic. That was the reason I was reaching out. And it also gave them a hint of, hey, I'm not going to pitch you. I'm not going to ask you for a job. I'm not going to ask you for a coffee chat. I really just want to kind of connect with the who's who in the area of digital marketing. So be authentic in your outreach. You can say things like, I'm looking to connect with other alums. I'm looking to connect with other entrepreneurs in my area. I'm looking to connect with people who have a shared passion in animal welfare charities. I'm looking to connect with founders who I respect and follow. Those statements are complimentary towards the people that you're sending a connection request to, but they're not slimy and shady, right? They're not like, hey, I see you run $1 million business. I want to be connected because I'm a virtual assistant and I can help you. Those messages always come across the wrong way to me, and I decline those connection requests 90% of the time. I also decline connection requests from people who appear to do exactly the same services that I do, unless we are in some other way truly connected in real life, because it's like, yeah, I know you're connecting with me just to follow me and steal what I'm doing potentially. So if there's not a personal note, if there's not a reason, I'm unlikely to accept that connection request, and think about it that way for your clients too. So always be authentic in your outreach. With that great profile, with your value proposition, and being authentic in your outreach, there is a much higher chance someone will accept the connection request. Now, either before or after you send them a connection request, preferably before, if the person you're connecting with is active on LinkedIn, comment on their content. It really works well when you comment on their content before you connect with them and after, because it shows you're interested in what they have to say and in following them, which is really great if you are working up to have a conversation with this person or to send them a pitch. It won't feel like it's coming out of nowhere when you have made some effort to comment on their content. So there's several people I follow on LinkedIn because they're potential clients, and I'm watching what they post and commenting on it, sharing it, liking it. Then there's also people who I just find interesting, right? So there's a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn who post awesome content about the job application process, the hiring, salary negotiation. And I'm just interested in what they have to say and what they're seeing in real time. So I follow them and I share and like their content. It also provides great content fodder for your own profile because you can share what they're saying and you can add your own commentary to it. You can disagree with what they're saying and share it and say, here's why, I have a different perspective. It's really an engaging way to connect with people when you are viewing what they have to say, because you're helping push them up in the LinkedIn algorithm, but you're also providing feedback on what they do and their unique perspective. So comment on their content. Again, this also makes it feel less sales related, right? You're really just following them and saying, hey, I like what you're talking about. Now, when you write your own content, tag other people when you talk about their content or reference something of interest to them. So as an example, there's a number of people on LinkedIn that I'm connected to in the military spouse and veteran hiring space. If I see a new law, a new program, a job offering where they're specifically seeking veteran and military spouse applicants, I will tag those other people. That grows the reach of that post, but it's also just kind of like a nice networking thing of, hey, this may be relevant to people in your network that I'm not connected to. So I'm sharing this information and I'm making sure that you see it. And this kind of like builds that relationship too, right? Because they can do the same for you. Now, when you're sending out connection requests, you have to make a decision at the outset of sending even one. And that's with this campaign that I'm going to use right now, what is the intention of my connection? Do I really just want to grow followers, or am I looking to build specific followers? Am I looking to pitch somebody? So if you're just growing your network, you want to be authentic to that in your connection request. Hey, I'm looking to follow more people who do XYZ. Hey, I'm looking to grow my personal network of entrepreneurs in my region. Hey, I'm really interested in the work that you're doing in XYZ space. I'd like to follow you and be connected to you so I see all your updates. That is very different from trying to cultivate a relationship with someone that you're going to pitch, because you may be a little bit more forward in the connection note that you send or the message that follows that. So you may open with a neutral, hey, I love what your company is doing in this space. I think you all are real innovators, and I'd love to be able to follow your thought leadership. That may come with a pitch from you a day later or a week later or a month later, but you want to tailor your approach accordingly. So what I mean here is, don't tell someone, I want to be connected with you because I'm looking to connect with other people who went to X university, and then pitch them on something that's unrelated to what they do. Or don't tell someone, I love your content, I want to get notified every time it gets published. And then immediately the next message that you send them is, hey, you want to hop on a call and talk about my freelance services? I think you should hire me. There's a disconnect there. So be authentic with the reason that you're looking to connect with them, and make sure that shows up in the message that you do send. It really should be aligned so that the person understands, because a lot of times when I get direct connection requests that say something like, hey, here's a link to my 45-minute webinar about how to invest in the stock market. Not only do I not watch the webinar, but I won't accept the connection request, because the way that that conversation is leading off is very them oriented, and it has nothing to do with me. It's not saying, oh, I saw a post you put up last week about the importance of passive income streams for freelancers. I'm curious if you've ever thought about investing in the stock market. That's a conversation opener. The webinar offer is a pitch. And so not only do I not watch the webinar, but I'm saying, I don't know that I want to see this person's content ever again. So we need to be really thoughtful and strategic about how we show up like that for our prospective clients. Sometimes you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn not to pitch them business, but you are connecting because You really do want to see what people you went to grad school or college with are doing. You want to follow people who are hosting cool events in your area, or, the organizers of a conference where you'd like to speak. You want to be initially connected to them, but you're not necessarily pitching them or hitting them up for an ask immediately. And so just be authentic in saying that, like, hey, I'm a follower of this conference, would love to be connected here on LinkedIn. Keep it simple, right? That's authentic to what you're hoping to do. And they don't feel like, well, this person's going to say they want to come speak at my conference, or they want a free ticket, or there's not an ask there, right? So it's a little bit better experience for those people that you are connecting with. So just always be aligned. If you're doing the aggressive salesy tactics, that's fine too. Know that you're going to turn off a lot of your audience by immediately going into an unqualified pitch, right? The person sending me the webinar about investing, you have not qualified me at all. The person who sent me the pitch last week saying, have you ever thought about writing a book? Okay, you've made no effort to research me or look at my profile. And that's fine, because maybe sometimes you get a hit from people who haven't written a book, but because you haven't gone that extra 5 seconds to really see, is the service that you're offering something that's relevant to me? Now I have a bad vibe about you and what you have to offer on LinkedIn. So I'm not going to connect with you. Now, my final tip for growing connection requests is always look for something in common and clearly state it in the connection note if you can. This is really beneficial for growing your platform and your following, because it is more human, right? So if I say, hey, I read an article you wrote last week on Inc.com. I have been following your company and I'm on your newsletter. I love the work you do, right? So I love when people send me connection requests. Hey, I listened to your podcast. Hey, I read your book. It really helped me. Even sometimes when someone would be like, hey, this link on your website is broken, right? There's something personal about that message that doesn't feel spammy. So look for something you can connect on personally. Maybe you heard the founder of a company you're going to pitch on a podcast, and you want to say, hey, I loved your appearance on this podcast. Your point about A, B, and C was really smart. And I just found that to be a great takeaway from that episode. We went to the same college. We graduated and got the same degree. We're members of the same sorority. We're both involved in this same organization on a national level. We've both been speakers at this conference in the past. We both have a podcast. We're both interested in publishing books. Look for any type of thing that helps to connect you with that potential person on LinkedIn. It just adds a human element. It shows you're not just doing mass pitching and adding tons of people to your following without being strategic about, what you want to get out of the relationship. So adding that personal connection note has a much higher chance of them accepting your connection request. And it also builds more of a solid foundation on which to have an actual conversation. So maybe for now, that conversation is only, hey, I heard you on this podcast. You brought up some great points. And maybe that's where it's left, is that they write back and say, thanks, I really appreciate your feedback. It means a lot. Maybe in the future that leads to other things, or maybe it leads to an actual conversation between the two of you that could turn into potential referrals. It could turn into potential business. One of the things I have found to be most powerful about building connections on LinkedIn is always be authentic with those connections, reply to their messages, and you will see an uptick, not just in where you're getting business from LinkedIn. But let's say I connect with someone who is not a candidate for my services right now. We stay connected on LinkedIn and they see me continuously post about legal marketing or about what it's like to be a freelancer. I have noticed a big increase in the last several months of people who are showing up in my LinkedIn inbox saying, hey, Christina Smith recommended you. Hey, John so-and-so said that you're really good at legal marketing. So because those other people have followed me and I have given them a good pitch-free experience on LinkedIn, I have built a lot of authority as someone to be referred to, right? And so now it's not just about me sending cold pitches or me responding to people who reach out to solicit my services. Other people are recommending me. And therefore, we go back to the beginning when those new people say, okay, Samantha Smith recommended you. They're looking at my profile. They're seeing activity. They're seeing a lot of solid connections. They're seeing followers. It's that social proof plus that instant credibility and professionalism of your profile and the work that you do on LinkedIn sharing content that makes you referable to other people, right? So see how this is an engine that has many different ways that you can put the gas pedal on it. You're getting direct results from showing up in the search on LinkedIn because you've optimized your profile and you're writing great content. You are being seen as a thought leader by other people in your industry who respect you and want to follow you. And so LinkedIn sees that and it pushes your posts up in the algorithm. You're also building this strong referral network, getting known as the person who does that thing. So again, you're showing up in the search results for your direct clients, but you're also getting known by other people as the expert in that area. So when someone comes to me and, says, "Hey, I'm looking for someone who does Facebook ads," I can instantly think of who is the person that I would recommend them to who does Facebook ads. If I don't have a personal referral, I'm going to suggest the person I see posting the most content about Facebook ads on LinkedIn, right? So this whole engine has many different powerful opportunities for us to grow our following on LinkedIn. And it's so simple. Now, when I'm really busy, I don't do as many of my strategic LinkedIn connection adding campaigns, but I will be in line at the grocery store or I'm waiting at the doctor's office and I will just pull up my LinkedIn app and choose some search features to look for. I might search for other freelance writers. I might search for other people in the military space. And I will just start hitting that connection button and sending a short little message about why I want to connect with them. A little goes a long way when you are doing this process. So it's a great way to organically and authentically connect with people. And yes, it takes a long time, right? LinkedIn only starts taking you seriously when you have over 500 connections. Now, here's a pro tip. If you have really low connection numbers, import your email people who are in your email. So you can connect Outlook, you can connect Gmail, you can connect Yahoo, and it will pop up and say, "Hey, here's all the people we found where the email address you have is their LinkedIn email address." And you can uncheck people, right? So maybe the client you worked with 3 years ago that you didn't like, you uncheck them. But this can get you up to that 500 number pretty easily, especially if you're an established freelancer. It's also a great way to stay in touch with past clients. I can't tell you how many times someone will end a project with me because there's not a need anymore. But then 2 years later, they're seeing my content on LinkedIn and they remember my name, they remember what I do, and they reach out. So if you need that pro tip to get more LinkedIn connections right away, I strongly recommend importing your email followers and just take that extra step of removing people that, maybe in your email for other reasons and you don't necessarily want to be connected to them on LinkedIn. So I hope you're taking away some powerful tips for really up-leveling your LinkedIn connection strategy. Slow and steady wins the race here. Be thoughtful, be strategic, be authentic, give people a good experience, and share good content. And that's really the way to grow a huge following on LinkedIn and also have a warm pipeline of potential freelance client leads or leads from people who can refer you when they're asked for help.